Everybody, and welcome to this, your Sunday sunset safari. That's called triple alliteration, and it came out entirely by mistake. You are on a live safari here in the northeast corner of magnificent South Africa, the iconic Kruger National Park, part of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, 8.5 million acres of untrammeled wildlife wonderland. Now, my name is James Henry. On camera today is Dave. Hello, David. David is very camouflaged today. He is unlikely to be seen by any animals today. I am semi-camouflaged, and on the other vehicle we have Byron Sorrell, who looks like a buffalo and indeed is as big as a buffalo, and Brian Joubert, who is a bit like a giraffe. Really, giraffe and the buffalo together. Now, we are traditionally supposed to start the show with an animal, a live animal, but because we are live, and live we are, hashtag Safari Live if you want to talk to us, or questions at WildEarthTV. Well, we couldn't start with an animal because we couldn't find one. So what we've started with is what is known as caper bush. It is unusual only for the fact that there are not many of them here. In other places they are quite common, but it is quite a woolly sort of a thing, and it's been consumed by a number of caterpillars. You might be able to see there. You might also be able to see the hairs shining on the bottom of it, and that's why it's called a woolly caper bush. But often it doesn't grow on its own like this. Quite often it grows on a termite mound and underneath other trees, and it produces these amazing sort of, I'm still sure many of you have seen Tarzan. It produces these huge vines that swing from the trees in very well-watered areas, and that's the woolly caper bush, Capparis tomentosa. Right, our plan this afternoon, everyone, is to head off towards Cheetah Plains and see if we can't replicate Byron's very good efforts yesterday of elephants and cheetah. Maybe we'll be lucky with a leopard, maybe we'll be lucky with an impala and a steenbok, who knows. But before we do that, I'm just going to drive along here because we did some testing today of our new fixed-wing drone, and I lost a tool on the way, so we're just going to drive that route and then head towards Cheetah Plains. It's good to roughly 75 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not mistaken. I still, despite having been converting these things for over a year, am unable to sort out in my mind exactly what the conversions are. Oh well, we weren't all born with enormous brains, were we, David? No, we were not. Right, let's go across to Byron and find out what his plans for the afternoon are.
And I are currently in a very thick block. We had some leopard tracks around. We were trying to find Karula perhaps, and maybe if we're lucky some of her cubs. We're in a thick block. We did have some tracks earlier and they headed into this area, so we're just driving through and scanning very carefully, but it is becoming quite thick now. But you never know, we're trying to check these trees and really scan around this area quite carefully. James had a very successful morning with lions. He got to show you those beautiful cubs with the lionesses and the other 3 lionesses on Arathusa. We're going to search this area for a while to be able to stalk and hunt their prey. Let's jump out of here quickly. Watch out. There we go, we're out the thick stuff. Going to stay in this area for a little bit. Just want to make sure we don't miss any tracks. Going to check very carefully while we're driving along here. But that is what happens when you're live on safari in the African bush. You know, we really are in the middle of nowhere, so we can often lose you. Just trying to work around this area very carefully and have a look and see if we have any signs of a leopard. Nothing just yet. As I mentioned earlier, the temperature's warmed up quite a lot today. It's a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. Often you get leopard moving down into drainage lines, into thickets, where they will rest in the cool sand or in the shade of the big trees around here, and potentially then start moving around a little bit later as it cools down, right into the evening, and then move around at night. I don't see any tracks anywhere. James did check around this area this morning, but he didn't have any luck either. So I think we'll just continue around here a little further, and we'll check the brake very carefully, make sure we don't have any tracks coming across. As I said, I hope you're having a wonderful, relaxing Sunday wherever you are in the world. I know we've got some people from Johannesburg. Big hello to Ian, Claire and Gail. Hope they're enjoying this afternoon's show with us. Don't forget to send us your questions. Hopefully I or James will be able to answer them for you. It's nice soft sand along this road, so it would be easier to see fresh tracks of anything crossing in and out of this area. We've got some elephant tracks already from earlier today. These gremlins affecting our signal, but I think we're good now. It should be 100%. We are in the area where those lions with the little cubs were this morning. I've seen their tracks. This is where they crossed, and they crossed south into the neighboring property. That's where James was with you this morning. I was hoping we'd see them crossing back, but I don't see any tracks coming back. It's amazing to see so many little cubs around with those females. Really wonderful, wonderful sighting. It was definitely a baby morning this morning. We had a lot of youngsters. James had the cubs. I had that very, very young Inyala that we found, the baby Inyala, the newborn in fact. It was definitely born this morning early sometime, and the mother was still busy cleaning it, and it was incredible to see. Very, very special sighting. Sean in South Africa has asked us a question. He has asked us, do we know what is the only flying animal? Now, I'm not too sure if I understand that question correctly. Only flying animal. I wonder if you mean mammal. Only flying mammal. I think the only flying mammal... Good question. This is tricky. There is a squirrel, which there's a tree squirrel which has a flap underneath its front and hind legs, and what it does is it leaps from one tree to another, and it opens its legs and front legs and back legs, and that flap opens up and causes wind to move underneath it, and that allows it to glide from tree to tree. I think that is the only one that off the top of my head. If anyone else can think of something, please let me know. I hope that's what you're asking for, Sean. I'm just scanning very carefully as we're driving around or along this road, and driving very slowly, making sure I don't miss any tracks. Really warm now, so not even the birds are chirping too much. Don't see too much bird activity. Usually early in the mornings and late in the afternoons might get a bit more bird activity, especially just before dusk. The birds all give their final call for the day before they settle down and sleep and rest for the evening. While I'm checking this road for any tracks or any sign of animals, James has a hippo. Go ahead and join him for a while.
Does that mean we're live? Oh, well.
The gremlins are really having a go at us today. They're not letting the signal flow smoothly. So you were about to see James with the hippo, but you're back with me. We're still checking the road for any sign of animals walking through across. I've seen a lot of elephant tracks crossing back and forwards over this road. No big cats just yet. I really would like to see Karula. I've never seen that leopard before, especially with cubs. It's something that is so special to be able to witness. I'd love to find her, but you never know. If we don't get lucky today, maybe in the next few days we do. I think what we're going to start doing is moving across to Arathusa, see if we can't find those lionesses that were at the waterhole. Hopefully they're still around there. It was a warm afternoon, so I think they possibly would have stayed in that area, found a bit of shade, stayed close to the water and rested until later this afternoon. They might get up and move. So what we'll do is we'll start moving across to that side. Still just constantly scanning, having a look around for any sign of wildlife. Our morning started like this. It was a little slow at first, but it's just so nice to be out here. You never know what you're going to bump into, and even just driving without seeing wildlife, you still have the beautiful trees and the smells and the sounds of the bush. You know, the odd bird calling here and there. If I hear one close enough, I'll point it out to you. A lot of different sounds and bird calls that we can hear. James Richard has asked us a question about the population of steenbok and duiker in the area. And just give me a second, James Richard, if you don't mind. I've seen some tracks here. It looks like a leopard track from this morning, however. I see there have been vehicle tracks driving over it, but they've crossed south across our boundary into that area. It's always worth having a good look. So, James Richard, getting back to your question about the steenbok and the duiker, I'm not too sure. It's very difficult to say. You know, from what I've seen, there are a lot more steenbok than there are duiker. But I think it's very difficult unless you do a proper census in this greater Kruger area and have a look. I think it would be difficult to say which there's more of. And so, yeah, but from what I've seen, there's definitely more steenbok, it looks like it. This it's not quite, it's not arid at all, but it is very dry at the moment. And the steenbok don't mind dry conditions. They drink very, very little water. They don't have to drink every day. Hyena tracks, and but the duiker would need water a lot more regularly than the steenbok do. So steenbok thrive or would do a lot better in dry conditions like this as opposed to the duiker. So I think that's possibly why I would say that the steenbok population is a lot higher than the duiker population. I think James is still having a bit of issues with his signal. Perhaps he's decided to take the afternoon off and he's turned off the cameras. And him and David are relaxing near a waterhole and doing some birding. is very dry here at the moment. Even I'm getting a bit parched while we drive. Not too much moving around in this heat at the moment, which is not unusual. It does happen, but that's why we'll start making our way towards waterholes, checking around there and see if we don't have activity. You know, animals, some people think animals will go and drink at specific times of the day. That's not true. The animals will drink any time of the day. Whenever they're thirsty, they'll go down and drink some water. While we continue towards a waterhole, let's try getting an update from James one more time. Hopefully you are lucky.
We had a wonderful time at Buffelshoek Dam, everybody. Sorry about the gremlonies that seem to be messing with the Gowrie repeater. Connor's gone there to go and beat the stuffing out of them, and then we should be A for away. At the, I will tell you what we saw at Buffelshoek Dam. We saw a hippopotamus. He looked not displeased to see us. Then we saw 2 waterbuck bulls, the only waterbuck I've actually seen at the water since I've arrived at Djuma. Then we saw a warthog, and he went running off, scuttling away, and then there were a whole lot of nyala coming down. So it's a real pity you couldn't have joined us there. We also had blacksmith lapwings, we had a 3-banded plover, we had 2 recalcitrant Egyptian geese. So all in all, a very good time was had by 2 of us at Buffelshoek Dam. Very nice Sunday afternoon, and I deeply, you can hear I'm speechless at the suggestion from Byron that I would switch the car off and just go birding on my own. I mean, I'm scandalized to the point of being hurt. I shall have a word with him when I get home through the medium of a half brick. Now, we were talking about favourite trees this morning. Well, in actual fact, Byron was talking about favourite trees, and I don't know what his trees are, and as of this afternoon, I don't care what his favourite trees were. But I thought I'd talk about some of mine, as the ability of my good self to find animals has continued to be dire. Favourite trees, and I'm sure many of you have got favourite trees. Very few of them actually occur here. One of them, the brown ivory we get here. I am also a huge fan of the Natal mahogany. It's a beautiful tree that grows sort of deeper in towards the more permanent river. There's an elephant. Stand by, everybody. Marula trees, obviously magnificent things. Then, I know this is going to scandalize people, but there's something about a bog standard issue oak tree that I really, really find deeply comforting. And there are, of course, the beautiful fig trees, huge fig trees that we get, and possibly my very favorite, the nyala berry. A nyala berry tree, stunning tree, and I had a relationship with one on the 13th fairway at the Palabor Golf Club, and I say relationship because no matter how often I played the hole, every time I teed off, my ball would sail straight and true into the middle of the nyalaberry tree, and I'd never see it again. Now, they seem to be going off into Torchwood, these elephants, which is very unkind of them. We will approach with relative speed, but not enough to startle them with any luck. Don't go. There's a whole lot of them in there, just disappearing off into Torchwood. Oh, it's a nice big herd, full of big elephants. Oh, there's some more this side. I think we're in for a bit of a treat here. We stop in the shade here. You can see them all grazing across the clearing there, and there are a couple more in front of us, and they're obviously all heading that way. The little one was just sleeping in the shade. Very sweet. So peaceful when they want to be, and so deeply unpeaceful when they want to be, but these ones seem to be in a relative state of peace. Feeding, and you can see the ground on which they're feeding, of course, is almost denuded of vegetation. They're picking up the last scraps, they're picking up the odd forb, and a forb, of course, is a sort of unidentified herbaceous plant, like a flower, really. But they still maintain a little bit of moisture in them, and that's why the elephants will be trying to pick out those. And they won't be taking anything. I mean, they are highly selective about what they eat. Isn't that a lovely sort of scene of the deep blue winter sky, the last bits of green, and those great grey giants gently walking off in an easterly direction, away from the soon-to-be setting sun. Now, David, here come a few more across the road. Looks like a big bull at the back there. That's quite interesting. Big bull lurking with the herd. He'll be probably, or if he's not in must, he'll be coming into must, and he'll be seeking out an estrus female. Now look at the difference between them now. The big bull behind, the cow there. Look how flat her back is in comparison with him, how her belly is less rounded, her forehead much more square. And they will tell you also that a female's tusks grow down more than they grow forward, and in this case it's completely rubbish. You can see those tusks are growing forward, but they are definitely thinner at the base than a bull's will be. Also, I mean, massive size, but when you come across one of those fellows, I mean, he's a good third again, 30% larger than the cows. He's a magnificent chap. Not the biggest ivory in the world, but look how graceful that 6-ton animal is. Right, let's go a little bit forward. We might be lucky to get another view. I don't think of him, but we've certainly still got a very nice view of the ones off to the left-hand side of us. I'll just turn a little bit. See how there's no grass on this ground at all. None whatsoever. And that is going to make for tough times for the grazers. I'm just quickly going to give an update to Lex. Lex also 2 Wild Earth stations mobile. One went Buffelshoek Dam via Gari Cutline, and now currently with a breeding herd of elephants mobile east into Torchwood, about 200 metres to the north of the junction with Gari Main, and Byron's headed down south towards Treehouse Dam. So that's just an update, and for those of you who are perhaps new viewers, we are in constant radio contact with all of the game drives around this area, and oh, he didn't get that message. I will have to give it to him again, but we don't need to do it right now. And so there's a whole network of people driving around. Some can cross the borders that we can't cross, some can't. And so we are in a sort of a network of tracking communication, if you like. So if somebody sees something that we see, or that we want to see, we can go there, and sometimes the other way around. So it's really important that we keep in good contact with everyone around here and maintain friendships. Otherwise people will hide things from us. I'm just going to give him that message again. Lex, are you copying me now? Lex, 2 stations, Wild Earth Mobile. One went towards Treehouse Dam, the other went Gari Cutline, Buffelshoek Cutline to Buffelshoek Dam. Currently on Cheetah Cutline with the breeding herd of elephants mobile east into Torchwood, 200 metres north from the junction with Gari Main. And that one there, just if you can go to the right there if you don't mind. There we go. Right, there we go. Now, eating a Combretum, Combretum calinum bush, a variable bush willow. Now, elephants do like those, and you can see that from the fact that, well, the elephant's eating it, of course, but you can also see that from the fact that it has been broken so many times. And if you watch carefully, that elephant is not eating the leaves. He's kind of stripping the leaves off. He's eating one or two, but he's mostly going for the bark. There, he's eating some actual leaves there. Lucia, nice one from you. Welcome. I'm not sure if I've spoken to you before, and if I haven't, well, it's good to meet you, Lucia. How do you do? You want to know if when a bull's ready to mate, does he separate the female, or the object of his affection, from the rest of the herd? Sort of. What will happen is she will go into estrus, and then she will seek out a very large bull, well, when he's around the herd. She won't leave the herd to be with him. Then they'll move away slightly, but they don't go and find sort of privacy. He cannot mate with her unless she wants to mate with him, simply because of the mechanics of how it works. So she has to stand there, she has to almost back into him in order for them to copulate successfully, not to put too fine a point on it. And they will do that only when she's ready, and it'll be slightly away from the herd. And so I don't think he'll try and separate her from the herd, no, but he'll certainly chase her around a bit. And sometimes, just before she's actually ready to mate, he'll harass the females, and they get very upset, and you can they really do create enormous consternation within the herds, these great big bulls. But the best part of their sort of breeding cycle, I suppose, is when they give birth. And an elephant giving birth is a great celebration for the rest of the herd, and quite unlike many other herding animals where the new mother must sort of separate herself, and she becomes extremely vulnerable, giving birth in some thick bush somewhere, hoping that a predator doesn't come along while her baby is being born, or while it's sort of in its first half an hour before it can stand up and run around. The elephants will surround the cow that is giving birth. They'll make a huge trumpeting noise of celebration. They'll all help to pick the little one up when it is finally born, and it's this huge sort of almost human, if you like, celebration when the little baby elephant is born. Wonderful to witness. I've never seen a full birth before, but I've got there just afterwards. James Dungan, a very good question, which we will answer with an experiment. We will feed David two examples. You want to know if a green leaf basically tastes the same as a golden leaf. So do the leaves change in taste? Absolutely they do. And I think the major thing is that the tannin levels will drop completely, but so will the moisture content. And when the moisture content goes, so will the carbohydrates go. So a lot more just structural stuff in the dry leaves. But let's have a taste of the difference. I'm sure we'll be able to get it. These elephants are heading off into Torchwood. I'm not going to get out and pick some leaves right here, lest I be attacked. No, hang on, I can actually do it just right over here. I'll hide from them using the car. David, if they come rushing out of Torchwood, you will tell me, won't you? We'll get three examples. One a sort of gold one a brown one. Well, we'll get two, Dave. We'll have one each. And two greenies. Now this is the same tree. Yeah, it looks like a variable bush willow. So it's the same kind of tree. Right, now David, here is your treat for the day. Say thank you. Delicious. Right, let's go with the greenie first.
Let's.
Full of tannin. But there is some moisture. You can taste nutrients, I suppose. Not nice.
What's the next one?
Next, let's go with the Golden Delicious. That was Granny Smith. Now, almost entirely tasteless, wouldn't you say?
I would say.
Totally tasteless. So all of those substances have gone, but while the tannins, which are not great for the animals to eat, have disappeared, so have all the nutrients. Now, the very dry one. You like straw, like dusty straw. Not much to recommend any of them. So there we go, James. A profound difference in taste between the Granny Smith, the Golden Delicious, and the Withered and Dead. Let's go and find out what Byron's doing, see if he's managed to find an animal or if he's still talking nonsense and casting aspersions on my character.
So James, I have not yet found an animal. Actually, I have. There's an impala. And there it moves. Hang on, they're just around the corner. Three impala. There we go. Three male impala. So I have found an animal, James. We are in the area where there were 3 lionesses this morning. It's amazing to watch how those impala can jump. They cleared a whole drainage line with one leap, very, very easily. So we are in this area where the lionesses were this morning, 3 lionesses. I've seen signs of their tracks, or I've seen their tracks heading west, away from the waterhole. They are not lying there anymore. I was hoping they would have been lying down, but they have moved. I don't think they would have gone too far. So let's just have a look around here. Keep our eyes open, moving in through a drainage line so it's nice and cool. I'm hoping they've decided to lie down somewhere in here. See, scanning very carefully while we drive. I will be very, very excited if we find these lionesses. Trying to look for tracks while we're driving too. It's not always easy. There's a lot of impala around here. So that's a good sign. It means that it's unlikely that there are lionesses lying very close by. So we can drive a little bit further and check further down this area. Come on, I can't let James have all the limelight for finding animals this afternoon. I need to find you something. It's my favorite, driving through these dry riverbeds, these trees up around us. When it's so hot, it's lovely to drive and just spend some time in these riverbeds, these dry riverbeds. Now it's got a few trees here, we just have to be careful.
Gone the whole way there. Hello everybody. Sorry about that. There was another elephant that we saw. Unfortunately, he's in very thick bush, so we're going to carry on here, mainly because I see a vehicle in front of us and it seems to be stopped. Now, we are not allowed to go either north or south of this road because we're on the way to Cheetah Plains now. But maybe there is something exceptional on the road, like leopards. Or maybe they were looking at some impala. That's also possible. This is Peter from Nkoro. Good afternoon. How are you? Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Can't complain.
No, good. Doesn't help. No one cares.
Yes.
Anything on the CP from this morning that you heard about?
I wasn't out on drive this morning,
Okay.
so I know Mike's been driving around there, but nothing else, eh?
Cool.
We're trying to find those kind of apparently from yesterday.
All right. Cool.
No reports are coming from
Okay.
our side.
Cool. Alrighty.
Okay.
Enjoy your drive.
Enjoy.
Bye bye, guys. Enjoy. So that's Peter from Nkoro, which is just to the north of Cheetah Plains. I seem to be finishing every sentence like that. There is a starling, David, a bird on a wire. Which I think is a film, isn't it? There we are. Beautiful always to see a starling in the sunlight, because they are so very pretty. That looks like a... Oh, that's interesting. Looked. It is a virtual starling. You can see it with no black. No, it's not. It's got an orange eye. There we go. The bird on the wire has flown off. Cape Glossy starling. It went as it went away. Who's trying to listen to? Apparently Tundi was seen sometime this morning. Mike, what was the last position of Tundi this morning? Ah, just down here. Okay, so she was apparently, remember when we saw her, I don't know if you remember, we saw her, copy, thanks, we saw her on a termite mound here, or she was in a big tambuti tree, just lying there when we drove past here the other day. And now apparently she was on the termite mound underneath that, but she did then head north. Now we all guessed, given the size of her fat belly that day, that she was about to give birth. And Jamie saw her in the same tree 2 days later. Now they've seen her on this termite mound again, and I wonder if Tundi, Karula's other daughter, has not given birth somewhere around here. What I'm going to do, because I think we might lose signal as we go through here. Dave, you see the big termite mound in front of us there? So you've got the telegraph pole and the termite mound down straight through the other side there. If you super zoom in on the top of that, yeah, you're in the right place there. Let's just have a look-see, because we can't actually go off-road around here, because it is not our place. No, that isn't a leopard, this is a tree, a bush. Okay, let's roll down the hill. Byron has got signal and picture, so let's go back to him. If we find something, I'll try and get into a position where we can look at it down in this gap here. See you shortly. Tally-ho, David.
Thank you again, James. I seem to have lost some signal there, and I've had no luck finding any sign of these lionesses. But I'm not giving up just yet. We are going to search this area very carefully and see if we can't find them. And I know when you saw them this morning, they were lying down, and you thought, well, that's it, they're going to stay here for today. Just shows you can never, ever predict what animals are going to do. If they feel like getting up and moving, they will. Let's see, it is quite thick in this area. I got off the vehicle for a short while you were with James, just trying to see if I can't find any tracks, but alas, no luck. Good afternoon, Monique from London. Welcome. Monique, yes, we are looking for those 3 Nkuhuma females that James found this morning around a dam, a waterhole on Arathusa. So I'm trying to see if I can relocate them and find them, but they've moved off. and I cannot seem to find an exact direction. There's a lot of vehicle activity there, so a lot of tracks have been driven over. I'm trying to see if I can't find any signs of which direction they would have moved. This is the exciting part, the searching, the unknown, not knowing where these animals are and trying to find them. Very, very exciting. The other thing is they could have moved into a thick block, just lay down and rested for the day. But you never know. Check these junctions in a road are a very good place to look for any potential tracks of animals, because as we saw a few nights ago, was it last night, the night before, we saw a lioness and we followed her and we saw how they use the roads, and it's just a nice pathway for a lot of the animals. It's easier to walk across. So let me just see something here quickly. No. It's easier for them to walk through the bush. It's the path of least resistance. There's not a lot of trees, and it's just a great way to get around. Often in the soft sand, if you're lucky, you get a glimpse of a track. It's not to say they're not going to walk off the road at any time. Sign. So Finn, aged 8, has asked us, do apples grow where we are? No, Finn, we don't have apples that you are used to growing out in the wild, the normal apples. We've got a lot of other fruit though, and one of the very well-known fruit is the marula fruit. None are growing at the moment. It is winter, so it's unlikely to find any fruit, but in summer a lot of trees bear different fruits. Another one is a sour plum. Very, very, very sour fruit, and I've tried it a few times with guests, and it's so funny the faces you pull when you try the sour plum. But no apples. I think the elephant are a little bit unhappy about that, don't you think so, Finn? Well, I'm not giving up this afternoon until I find these lionesses. Good things come to those with persistence, I think. What do you think, Brian?
I think so.
Times like these, I wish I had a good friend of mine, a guy by the name of Judas. Him and I worked together for a long time. He was the tracker that I used to work with, and he just had a sixth sense while being in the bush. He could track and understand the movement of animals very, very well. And someone like that with you while you're driving, and he would be sitting on the front of the vehicle having a look for any little sign, and he could see half a track, and very, very easily. It was incredible, and I learned so much from him. I'm sure if Judas was with us now, we'd have a little bit more luck finding these lions. So James is heading off to Cheetah Plains this afternoon. We had a lot of luck there yesterday. We had those 2 beautiful male cheetah. I hope James has some luck down there too. But while he does that, stick with me a little bit, just a little bit longer. It's always interesting to see. You never know. We could get out, have a look around and bump into some lions. So Sandra has asked, have I ever had a dangerous close encounter? Sandra, I wouldn't say a dangerous close encounter. I have had some encounters that I've had to be a little bit more careful with, and that comes from tracking and looking for animals. When you are tracking, you're obviously very careful, but I have many times walked into lion prides, walked into leopard, and usually they give a bit of a growl, and they well, as soon as I hear that, I tend to back off. I see there's some other guys, a tracker and a ranger in this area too, walking looking for these lions. So we're in the right area, and maybe they can give us a hand. So Sandra, as I was saying, you've got to be so careful when you are tracking, because you often bump into these animals you're looking for, but often they'll give you a warning, a growl. If you're unlucky and you really threaten them, they may charge you. I haven't been charged yet, but I've been growled at quite a few times. So, but I guess that's part of the job. Just want to reverse a little bit here quickly. Those guys are checking in the same drainage line that we were in earlier. We just went further down and they've gone to have a look up a little bit higher. So let's drive around, and often while you're tracking it helps to try and check different areas. If there are a few people working one area looking for tracks or following tracks, you can drive around, take the next road around and see if those tracks don't come out somewhere. It will cut down the time you spend tracking. You really have to work as a team out here. Checking carefully around here. Another incident, actually, Sandra, now that I think about it, another incident I did have many years ago. We were in a camp and an elephant had broken through. And an elephant in camp is not a bad thing, but it's not ideal, especially during the day. Excuse me. Especially during the day, if you have guests walking around. Excuse me, everyone, sorry. I think a fly flew into my throat. So on this particular occasion, this elephant came in and we had to try and get him out. Now, it's not easy chasing an elephant out of a camp. Usually if you make a lot of noise, they don't like it and they tend to move off. On this particular occasion, the elephant was moving through the camp and had seen a few people already, so he was a bit agitated. So myself and another guide headed off in the direction of the elephant and thought we'd be able to chase him out. We got within about 100 meters of him, and we've watched him closely and thought, well, he's heading to the exit. If he gets closer, we'll make a noise and he will leave. Before that happened, though, he caught a glimpse of us in his eye, and he just turned and charged. He had had enough of people, and he decided to charge. My friend who I was with ended up just running immediately. Now, the general rule in the bush is whatever you do, don't run. You meant to stand your ground, try and make a noise so that the animal feels a little bit threatened, and usually they stop a charge. This elephant didn't stop though, and I was shouting and clapping my hands, trying to stop it. it didn't stop, and I thought, well, now I better start running. He had closed the gap quite a bit between us, and I turned to run, and as I turned, I was on uneven ground, and my foot slipped, and I fell. I landed on my back, and this elephant bull stopped about 5 meters from me. This really big elephant bull stopped and flapped his ears, and I was lying there looking up at him, and it happened so quickly. I don't think I even had time for my life to flash before my eyes. It was just like, wow, what's going on? And there was dust and a little bit of a trumpet, and he turned around, and as he turned and walked away, I got up quickly and I ran back to the nearest little house. And as I said, we were in the camp, so we weren't with guests. It was just myself and this other guide, luckily. And this elephant turned, and as he walked off, I got up and ran straight back to the house. But he definitely could have done some serious damage to me if he wanted to. But again, it just shows I don't think they are out there to harm us. It's only if we threaten them, when they feel threatened, they will act aggressively and try and get you away. While I'm continuing my search for these lions, I think James has got onto Cheetah pools. Go across and join him for a little while, and we'll see you shortly.
Byron is confused because Cheetah Pools is a road at Londolozi. I'm currently on Cheetah Plains, and I'm looking for a woodpecker that has now flown away. Beastly bird. Anyway, very nice bird. Woodpecker. It looked like a bearded woodpecker that we were trying to get a shot of. Anyway, we'll have to find something else. So here we are on Cheetah Plains. There's nobody else here as far as I can work out. Mike has gone off towards Torchwood. He's one of the guides here, and Andrew has as well, I think. So we're just going to knock about here on our own and enjoy ourselves. We'll put on the Eastern Channel in case something interesting pops up, and drive very slowly through the area, searching the tops of the termite mounds for Nkanyeni and the cheetah, perhaps stalking the plains as they did yesterday. It is a very common, of course, guide and very human thing to go into the same area more than 3 or 4 times, hoping to see the sighting that you had yesterday. This almost never turns out the way you think it's going to. So our first stop will be the water at 3 in a row Pan. Hello, B. Ellie the backpacker. What a marvellous name you have. You say, can we go to the tree that has got the water hose hanging in it, and do I know what they do that for? I don't. I haven't found out. I'm not sure why I haven't found out, but we went past there the other day, and the elephants have actually mangled the tree to pieces. All there is a stick sticking out the ground with the cable ties on it, but we certainly can go past that. It's on our way. So we'll do that. The elephants took obviously great displeasure at this thing falling. I've got no idea why it was like that. I can try and find out for you. I might actually ask. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we've had an answer from the final control. Oh, I'm sure she probably asked. Rebecca, did you ask them when you went yesterday? She did. Very clever. So what it is, it's the breather tube for the borehole. Now, a borehole in the United States is known as a well. So it's a well, basically, that feeds probably 3 in a row Pan here. And sometimes the pressure is too great. If it's an especially long pipeline. And so what they do is they put a breathing hole in there, and that's what that was. Thank you, Becca, for figuring that one out for us. A great mystery of the world, up in line with, of course, the construction of the pyramids and the Easter Island statues, has now been solved. Thank you very much for that. She says it's sad that we now know the answer. The mystery is gone. No one will ever ask to see it again now. B. Ellie the backpacker. Is that an elephant or is it a tree? It's a tree. Every time I come past 3 in a row pan, I see that thing and I think that there is some ivory sparkling in the sun, but actually it's a tree. Anyway, let's see if there's something having a drink down here. Quarantine the male leopard, 3.5 years old, likes to knock about here from time to time. Don't see his tracks on the road. Maybe he is lurking about on his favourite termite mound or in his favourite marula tree. Sarah, that's a really cool question. I don't know. You say, do I think that animals have a sense of humour? I don't know if they have a sense of humour. They've definitely got a sense of fun. And that really does vary with personality. Elephants, you know, little elephants or small lion cubs or leopard cubs, they've got a sense of fun around them. There is an elephant there. And I even think some of the bull elephants that we have our interactions with sometimes, I think they've got a sense of fun about them, or they've got a sense of no fun. So I think there's a variation depending on the individual animal you happen to be looking at. But a sense of humour, do I think they laugh? I'm not sure. I would say that the closer you get to human beings, the more something approaching a human sense of humour would be apparent. So if you looked at the monkeys and the baboons and that sort of thing, I suspect maybe you would find elements of a sense of humour, yes. There's 2 African hawk eagles over there, David. The other side of this effluent, this young bull effluent. Let's look at the elephant first. He's just having his evening snifter, his Sunday afternoon drink. Oh, everybody just take a deep breath in. And breathe out. And inhale the magnificent peace of a wilderness Sunday afternoon. Of course, the wilderness has no idea it's Sunday afternoon. It doesn't give a flying continental. But it does have a very Sunday afternoon feeling about it. Now this elephant bull, roughly the same size as the elephant cow that I pointed out to you crossing the road earlier. So probably about 4 tons. Probably about 9.5 feet at the shoulder. And just very peacefully having a drink. So I think it's this pan that's being fed by the pipeline that has the breathing hole to which Rebecca was referring, and of course the mystery to which she solved and thereby ruined our fun. Thanks, Rebecca. Davey, let's just have a quick look at those hawk eagles. They look like they might fly.
I don't see them.
They're in that tall marula tree, the big leafless tree there. There are 2 beds in there. We are. You got them. There are 2 African hawk eagles, everyone. Beautiful birds. That's it. And they're a pair, a monogamous pair. And let me just check something. I just want to check something on my bird app. So I'm so modern. I have a bird app. You see that, David? Mm-hmm. I'm very modern. Positively millennial. I was shouted at last night in camp, everybody, for being unmillennial by Connor. I obviously slapped him thoroughly. They're monogamous, yes, we know that. Nest and platform, yes, we know that too. Yes. Now, I'm amazed, okay, what we did today, of course, was we flew a drone. Well, we didn't. I mean, I'd say that as though anybody other than Connor had anything to do with it, but we gave him moral support. And the drone weighed 4.2 kilograms. Now, that bird is 63 centimeters tall, which means it's 2 feet tall. Its wingspan is roughly 1.5 meters. So, I mean, it's about a half the size, I suppose, of that drone that we have, but it only weighs 1.3 kilograms. That's tiny. So if you multiply that by 2.2, you get to go about 2.8. Sorry, excuse me, 3.8 pounds. And that's an enormous bird to be weighing only 3.8 pounds. It's 2 and a bit feet tall, with a wingspan of about 5 feet, and yet it only weighs 3.5 pounds. And of course, if you're going to fly, you have to be light. So an astounding array of hollow bones with comb inside them to make them strong, with struts inside them, almost exactly like the struts and braces that you'd find in an aeroplane to reduce weight. All right, Davey, let's have another look at the effident. And HK, as we go away from the birds, sorry about that, but let's have a look at our elephant here. HK, you want to know if they eat smaller birds? Well, not elephants. Elephants definitely don't eat smaller birds, not as far as I'm aware. But yes, absolutely, African hawk eagles eat smaller birds, mainly ground birds, or game birds like francolins and guinea fowl, but they will also take the odd mammal, like a squirrel, an unfortunate squirrel that might happen to be caught in a tree, a hare, or even a mongoose, I suppose, and possibly the odd fruit bat I'm reading now. I'd love to tell you I remember that list entirely, but I didn't. I had to look it up quietly. I knew they ate francolins mainly. That's the bulk of their diet. And what they do is, it's a really impressive sort of hunting thing. What they do is, one will hunt high up and almost distract the birds. So if they see, say, a flock of guinea fowl walking across a clearing, one will launch up way into the air, and the guinea fowl will be alarm calling at the one circling them over the top, and then I think it's often the female will come in from low down, from low off a perch, unsighted, bah! She'll nail one of them, and that's basically how they hunt, and then they'll share the meal together. So it really is a team effort, and it's a brilliant strategy, because to catch a bird like these ground birds, they're actually a lot faster than they look, and they take off very quickly, and they can get into thick bush very quickly. And this bird is not designed like, say, a crowned eagle, which has a long tail for bracing and turning and twisting, or an African sparrowhawk, something like that. It's designed basically to nail something on the ground, and it's got this very clever strategy of distracting the animal that it's trying to catch. This fellow is very, very, very thirsty. Not really sure why. It hasn't been very hot, very pleasant day. They will apparently drink, sort of, I'm told 100 litres a day. Now that trunk holds about 5 litres. So if you divide that up, you're looking at 20 trunks full every day. That's quite a lot. 100 litres in gallons. Oh, it's so difficult. I think they're 4.5 gallons or litres to a gallon. So I guess roughly 20 gallons of water a day. Okay, I think let's just sit here and wait for him to move off, see if he doesn't come this way to say hello to us, and then we'll press on and see if we can find something in the clearings. No, he's a very fabulous fellow. Look at him touching there. There's a carcass there of a wildebeest that was eaten by, I think, the Birmingham boys. They're the bones there now. He's touching them, he's smelling them. I don't want to move anywhere closer. Let's just see if he picks one up. Now we know that they do this with the bones of their own dead, but they will also, I suspect, especially in trying times like this, they're known to eat sand, and they'll go to a sort of sodic area like those clearings that we're going to go and visit now, and they'll eat sand for the minerals. And we know that many, look at him touching there, the wildebeest skull. Many animals, of course, will eat bones, or many, not animals, many herbivores will eat bones. Sorry, the radio's going crazy in my ear. Many herbivores will eat bones, especially during a drought, when it's, there's not much else to eat, and they need the phosphorus especially. And I wondered if he would do the same. It doesn't seem to be. All right, let's go across to Byron, find out where those fat lions have gone. They did exactly the same thing to me yesterday. Let's see if he has a bit more success.
No success just yet, but we have got a general direction of tracks. They headed north from where they last were, so we are still driving around and having a look for these lionesses. They are being very elusive this afternoon, but so is everything else. We haven't seen too much else while we have been checking this area. I bumped into a vehicle full of guests though. Their ranger and tracker had left them, they went off tracking. They were very friendly. So Betsy has asked me a question, and she would like to know, how long did it take me to read or learn how to track animals and read their behavior? Well, Betsy, it's taken a while. It's not... sorry, I'm just having a look at these tracks here quickly. No fresh tracks. So Betsy, it takes a while. I think... you can learn, within a year you can learn how to identify tracks, but I think the art of understanding the tracks and reading them carefully while out in the bush is very different, because you need to learn how to gauge whether they are fresh or not. And fresh tracks, to be honest, I learned that a lot from my friend Judas, who is a tracker. He's been tracking for 40 years, very, he just has a keen sense for tracking and understanding wildlife. I learned a lot from him, and that took me about 2 years, I think, with him every day, learning and watching him and understanding the bush a little bit better. But before that, I understood animal behavior fairly well. I've been going to Kruger National Park and Botswana from the age of about 5. That was the first time I went. So I've seen and learned a little bit as I've gone every year. But it does take some time, and you know what, I'd like to think that I'm experienced, but I still definitely don't know everything. Animals do not read the books like we do. They don't follow strict behavior. They will do exactly what they want. So you're always surprised by animal behavior, which is so wonderful. It's exciting. You don't know what you're going to see. I see a squirrel, which is hiding. There's a beautiful leadwood tree. Look at that. Those of you who... There we go. Hello, little squirrel, trying to hide from us. There was another one that ran up, but he is hiding behind a branch. That little one, they were sunning themselves. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. See, you never know what you're going to see. And I know James was speaking to you earlier. Look at the tail flicking. That's the other squirrel hiding behind there. James was talking about his favorite trees, and this morning I mentioned that a leadwood was one of my favorites. And this is a leadwood. It's a dead leadwood, but it's quite an old one. And as I mentioned, this would stay standing for a very long period of time. They're very, very hard, dense wood, and they just have a wonderful shape to them. I love getting these with the sunset or sunrise, the silhouette of a leadwood. Makes a beautiful photograph. But even in this afternoon light now, really is stunning. Nice to see two little squirrels, two little tree squirrels that are, and I'm guessing their home is probably in the top there somewhere. That's where they have a little nest. As I'm driving, I'm still having a good look at the tracks on the road, trying to see if I can get any clear sign of these lionesses. I do think, however, that they've moved into this drainage line, which is off to our right through the thicket. I don't think you'd be able to see it very clearly now, but I think they've moved down in there somewhere and they're resting until a little bit later. They'll probably get more active and move around, possibly try and hunt later this evening. So I'm heading down into this drainage line and going to search very carefully down here. James has taken up tree climbing.
Well, everybody, especially those that wanted to see this special tree, here it is, the tree in which the breathing pipe used to be. It was attached to the tree by this cable tie over here, but you can see the elephants have made it, well, more a twig than a tree, and I am now perched in the height of its boughs, just investigating what it would be like, of course, to be a bird sitting up here, and also to feel like one of the pipes that was attached to this tree. That is a ridiculous notion, and I'm now going to attempt to climb out. It is not the most sturdy tree I've ever been in my... Whoa!
You're right, Joe.
Yes, I mean, look, there's a very powerful pain coursing through my side here, but because we're live on screen, I won't scream and shout and declare how incredibly painful my body is right now, or the unspeakable sense of shock that I feel at almost killing myself on live television. Right. Shall we move on? Great. There we go. I'm not quite as light as I thought I was. Thank you very much. Yes, there is a fairly substantial piece of tree underneath my third rib. Anyway, we'll remove it later. Everybody, we won't do that while we're live. Whew. My composure. At least my hat didn't fall off, David. Imagine my hat had fallen off and people would have seen my bald head. That would have been the worst thing to happen. Sorry about that, everybody. I knew it was going to happen eventually. I've so far managed to not fall out of any of the trees that I've climbed, well, on this particular show, and that was the first. At least I didn't come all the way down, right?
Yeah, well,
You want to see my owie, David? Look at my owie.
hey now.
It's very sore. You see? Yes, look. Show everybody my owie. You can't even see it there. You're not even with a super zoom. Oh well. Hello Tony, you say will that tree live and recover? No, it won't, because as soon as we go off air I'm going to go back to it with a matchet and chop it to death. It will, Tony. Just about all the trees out here have evolved to cope with being torn to pieces by elephants, and that of course is let's quickly go across to Byron. He's got a bird.
They're still off to the left. There's one. We've just seen some white-crested helmet shrikes. Beautiful little birds. There's one. Can you see that? Look at that. Beautiful white-crested helmetrux. There's still one up in that tree, Brian, where you were. Oh, sorry, up there. There we go. Oh, there they go. They're making you work for it this afternoon. Oh, where are they now? Oh, another one flew off. Difficult to spot them. There we go. White-crested helmetrux. Well done, Brian. And then off they go. That's a beautiful, beautiful little bird. And why I like them so much is they're always in big groups. So you see a family or a group together. The interesting thing with those white-crested helmetrux is that only the alpha male and female in that party will mate and have chicks, and then the rest follow the pair. So very similar to wild dogs. Wild dogs, only the alpha male and female mate and have pups. Same thing happens with these birds, which is very, very interesting. We are still in search of the lions. No sign just yet, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. And I understand James fell out of the tree. That has just made my day. I will ask him about it later, see what he was doing in the tree in the first place. And while I continue my search, James has a big bird for you to see.
Not only a big bird, everybody, the very biggest bird. There is a little flock of ostriches, which I believe is also called a wobble. A wobble of ostriches. Of course, one should often say wobble because it does feel nice on the lips. Wobble, wobble of ostriches. 3 females, they're the brown ones, and the male, the resplendent in his tuxedo black. They are astonishing creatures. It really is amazing to spend a bit of time with them, and I don't want to go too close because I think they will run from us. So we'll just give them a little bit of time to get used to us. And they're just feeding on little forbs. Remember I described what forbs were earlier on. As they go across the clearing here, they eat nice, they like to eat, they will eat insects as well, but they prefer to eat new growth from herby plants. Just amazing. Hey? It's just astonishing. There's some wildebeest in the background, and I wonder if they're not going to come and have a drink. They may have already had their drink. Please just tell Byron the next time you see him that I didn't fall out of the tree. I fell sort of in the tree, and it's not the same. It's not the same at all. There are the wildebeest. Marvellous. It's so peaceful out here in the clearings. And there are also some zebra off to the right-hand side, which we'll just have a look at there. You're on them, Dave. A little bit left. Left. Here we are. That's a wildebeest. Hang on. There are some zebra, I promise. I saw them. I think they've moved into the thick stuff. Never mind. All right, let's see. Oh, hang on. The one ostrich is now coming closer. Let's see what she does. She might come round for a drink. She's definitely watching us carefully, you can see. There's a zebra. Ha! And just listen. I'm going to be quiet for about 20 seconds. See if you can hear anything at all. Not a sausage. It's so quiet out here, just one or two. I think I heard one crowned lapwing some way off to the north. Otherwise, it's just a nice soft breeze coming out of the northwest. And this is the kind of place, if you're ever feeling stressed out and tense, as Connor was this morning before he thought he was going to crash his drone, this is the kind of atmosphere that will calm and suck every piece of tension out of your body. And it's this kind of atmosphere that draws people back to the wild. And you can get it, of course, in any wild place, but an African wild place with ostriches and zebra and wildebeest in the background, well, could it be more special? Isn't that lovely? She's not, David, I wouldn't describe her as beautiful, would you?
Not quite.
Now, apparently her brain, everyone, is the same size as her eye. It's not very large. Possibly not capable of advanced calculus, but if you're an ostrich, you don't need to be able to do advanced calculus. I just want to see if she comes closer and deigns to have a drink, because I think she was about to when we arrived here. That's such fun. Now, I know Byron is looking for lions, and thus far failing to find them. I'd love to sort of cast aspersions on that, but of course I did exactly the same yesterday, and I think mine was probably a little bit easier to find. But the link there, of course, is that these things, when they call, sound almost like lions. And let me play you the call of the ostrich. And I mean, not if you're sitting right next to them, they don't, but if you hear them in the distance, they can sound a little bit like lions. I'll play you the call now, while we see if Mrs. Ostrich wants to come and have a drink. Yeah. Woofy day, I think they are. She's definitely very suspicious of us. Okay, here's the call. Hear that? You see how you might mistake that for a lion in the distance. Sounds like Brent doing the lion. Isn't that cool? It just called. One of them just called. I just heard it going, ooh. Now, interesting question about how often they get killed by the big cats. Not very often, but they do get killed by big cats, and certainly lions will happily have a go at an ostrich. And that's, I'm sorry, the comms with the final controller are not great at the moment. Masked Kim? That was your question. Anyway, I'm sorry I can't get it more accurately. But that's what happens. So they will get killed by lions, sometimes by leopards, maybe by cheetah, but that would be unusual. And a very nice question about whether or not they molt like regular birds. Yes, they do, but remember, their feathers don't have to be in anything like the same condition that the feathers of most flying birds do. And that's because they obviously don't have the risk of plummeting from the sky if they fail to do their feather maintenance. Now, that means that they do molt feathers. I suspect it's far more irregular than it is with something like, I don't know, a martial eagle, or those hawk eagles that we saw. Their feathers are also designed slightly differently, in that they don't have the sort of oily sealant on them, and they don't have to stick together in quite the same way that other birds' feathers do. So I hope that answers your question, but that's basically how it is with these ostriches. And Roger from Florida, a very good question about whether or not these ostriches stay in the same place or whether they roam. Roger, they do roam. They don't go huge distances, but they do go from this kind of habitat to other kinds of habitat that is the same. So they don't like to be in areas where there aren't clearings. They like to be in open areas where they can A, find food to eat, and B, they can run if they have to. Remember, their main defense, of course, is to be able to run at quite a tremendous speed. And so what they do is they will live around here for maybe a day or two, and they'll go through the woodlands, find another open area like this, and just kind of move from open area to open area. So they absolutely do roam. But that's simply, I think, well, it's probably a function of predator pressure and also a function of what there is to eat. And Brian, in Toronto, you say, is there one male here and several females? Yes, Brian, that's exactly what there is. The male is the resplendent fellow in his black garb. He looks like he's just about to go to a very formal do. And the female, well, they don't have such pretty colours, or such sort of obviously pretty colours, and that's as it is with most birds, of course. She's the one that is very drab brown. And Mike, you want to know if it's true or not that ostriches bury their heads in the sand. No, it's not true, Mike. I'm not sure where it comes from. If I'm not mistaken, the legend comes from when they go and they look for, no, that's the other legend, that they carry diamonds in their crops, which they don't. No, they definitely don't, and I've certainly read that they don't, and I've never seen them do it, but I don't remember exactly where that legend comes from. So if you do know where the legend of the ostrich burying its head in the sand comes from, please do let me know. Byron has got some zebras a little bit closer to him than our zebras. Let's go and take a look.
So ostriches don't bury their heads in the sand, but I almost did, because we've had no luck with these lions. Luckily, we bumped into these beautiful zebra. A wonderful light on them now, feeding on this grass. I was beginning to become a bit worried. Just shows you never know what you're going to bump into around here. Look at these patterns, just wonderful, wonderful animals to see. That beautiful mane on the back of the neck. Now, interesting with zebra, even though it's very dry at the moment, there is still a bit of grass around for them, but you can't really tell just by looking at zebra if they are too hungry or if they are lacking food. The reason for that is zebra build up a lot of gas in their body, so they always have that full, swollen look. Look at that belly. See how full it is? They build up a lot of gases within their body, so they always have that look. How you can tell, though, if the zebra is losing condition is that mane on the back. If that mane starts flapping over and falling down, that's a sign that the zebra are not healthy. These zebra, their mane is standing up nicely, and they are still very, very healthy.